Welcome to the Midnight Room, everyone. Are you ready for tonight's story? Tonight, I'll be reading you 3 stories from the Let's Not Meet subreddit. The link to the stories will be in the description down below. Number 1. Okay, so I've contemplated posting this for a little while. It happened a good few years ago, back in my early teens. To give a little background, the street I grew up on was very suburban. And as a child, I was also allowed to stay out late because the area was safe and everybody knew everybody. Eventually, this middle-aged guy moved onto our street. He was nice enough, but he rarely interacted with anyone on the street. My friend knew his family had disclosed to me that he had a wife and children, but in the year or so that he lived on our street, I had never seen anyone visit/move in with him. It was obvious that he lived by himself. So one night, I'm awoken by the sound of the doorbell ringing repeatedly and a loud bang against the front door. I try to go downstairs to see what was going on, but my older sister appears on the stairs and immediately tells me to stay upstairs. I asked her why, and she doesn't tell me. Naturally, I was confused and curious, so I peered downstairs and saw my mother pressing her weight against the front door. The door was locked and bolted, but she still leaned against it. I looked out the window to see my neighbor angrily smashing his fist against the door while threatening to kill us. I was majorly freaked out by this, and I began asking my sister more questions. She tells me they've called the police and my dad was on his way home. My father often worked night shifts. Eventually, my dad arrived, and a few of the other neighbors had come out to see what was going on. They managed to get him away from the front door, and police eventually arrived and took him. Apparently, the next day he had no recollection of what had occurred, and he had told a police officer to pass on his apology to us. As it turned out, he'd gotten insanely drunk the night before, and had forgotten he'd turned on his kitchen light. He then assumed that because he couldn't remember to turn the light on, that somebody had snuck into his house and turned them on, and it must have been one of us. My mother was absolutely seething, and rightly so. He may have sobered up the next day, but what would have happened if he'd gotten in? What would have he done? I personally believed he was on more than just booze that night. But what do I know? Thankfully, he moved away a few weeks later. So dear creepy neighbor, let's not meet again. Number 2. I used to be in a bad marriage. I made excuses because my ex never physically hit me. When I was finally fed up and left him, I moved into a house with my long-term best friend. My ex started stalking me and tracking me through Facebook. He knew about texts that were in my phone that he had no way to read unless he had some kind of spying app. He knew where I was, how long it took me to get from home to work, who I spoke with during the day. It was early one morning. The sun was coming up and the light through my window was enough to disturb my sleep. I rolled over in bed and extended my arm. That's when I felt it. Someone else's arm. I jumped out of bed screaming an unnatural scream, almost hyperventilating. There lay my ex, wide awake. He calmly looked up at me and coldly said, "I missed you." Running through my panicked mind was the thought that he was going to end my life. He would never leave me alone. I screamed, "You can't do this, it's creepy." He got up and replied, "What? Can't I come and see my wife?" I could tell right then and there he didn't love me. He felt he owned me. I spent what felt like an eternity trying to calm down and placate him enough to get him out of my house. I should have called the police, but I've been mentally abused for 5 years and I was terrified to call the police on him. I stopped staying at my house after that. I stayed the night with any friend that would host me. It's been over 2 years. I'm still trying to legally divorce him. He just won't let me go. Number 3. I used to live in Orlando, in a somewhat shady part of town. The 5 dead bolts on the apartment doors should have raised some flags. But I was a student, and there were a lot of students in the area, and I was young and not yet wary. Our less nice part of town bordered a very nice part of town. There was a 4 to 6 lane road that ran through the area, and a jogging path that ran alongside of it. Our apartment complex was right next to the road and the trail, and a little further down was my local gas station where I would walk once a day to buy cigarettes and other things. Because of the layout, it was easy for me to walk out of the door, step onto the path, and walk the 10 minutes to the gas station. Walking through the complex took a little longer. I often ended up taking this walk at night. Sure, I was a girl walking alone, but the path bordered this huge road and a lot of traffic, and right across the street was a busy strip mall with fast food places and such, so it wasn't like a dark path in the woods or anything. And hey, I always brought pepper spray and paid attention to my surroundings. So one night, I head to the gas station around 11 p.m., and as I'm walking along the path, I hear something behind me. Turning around, I notice about 30 yards behind me, there's a car on the trail. Like it had to have pulled off of the road and pulled up onto the path. I'm stopped and staring, and a guy gets out of the driver's side and starts walking around the grass between the trail and the road as though he's looking for something. Oh, I think, Something must have fallen out of his car, and he's pulled over to search for it. I keep walking. As I'm walking, I'm hearing something again behind me. I stop and turn. Guy is now 15 yards behind me, still no headlights, and I turn as he stops the car, or he stops the car as I turn. Again, he gets out and looks like he's searching for something in the grass. But he's closer now, and I'm a little creeped out. I'm not close enough to the gas station, so I pick up the pace. The next time I turn, he's even closer. He stops again when I look, but he doesn't get out of the car now. I don't just want to take off and let him know he scared me, but I am now power walking. My pepper spray is in my hand, but what does pepper spray do against a car? I throw a look over my shoulder. He's only a few yards behind me. He doesn't stop this time. The distance is closing. Fuck it, I take off. I judge the distance to the gas station to be too far along the trail, but there are some trees and stuff on the other side of the path from the road, so I bolt into them, through them, and through a little ditch towards the light of the station, which is now right in front of me. It felt like the dude in the car was going faster. I look behind me as I'm running through the ditch, and I see him through the space in the trees. His car slows down and he's just cruising along the section of the path I left. I continue my sprint to the gas station where I know I'll feel safe. The owners and employees all know me. I make it out front and I'm catching my breath, watching the part of the jogging path that meets the intersection. I see the car clearly for the first time. It's one of those brown car-truck combos with tan stripes along the side. Dude drives up the trail to the intersection, flips his lights on, and floors it onto the main road, disappearing. Up until that point, I was running on a mix of adrenaline and feeling that maybe I'm being stupid, but better safe than sorry. Once I had made it into the gas station, I pretty much broke down shaking. To this day, I still don't know what that guy's intentions were. Maybe he didn't even see me and was just looking for something. Maybe he was planning to hit me with his car and drag me off. Maybe he was an asshole that was trying to scare me. Either way, I had my boyfriend come and get me from the gas station, and I've never walked alone at night again. I hope you enjoyed those stories, my fellow nightmares. If you like this kind of content, leave a like, and I'll know to do more. If you want to hear them when they come out, feel free to subscribe and hit the notification button. If you guys would like to know ahead of time what videos may or may not be coming out, feel free to follow me on Twitter. The link will be in the description. Until next time, my fellow nightmares.